What's going on, gamers? Today we're back with some more Outriders Worldslayer. What I'm going to be covering today are some of the legendary weapons you should be looking out for in order to make the most powerful god roll builds because of some of the mods that come on them. So if you want to know what weapons you should be looking out for, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. Welcome back everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the best legendaries in the game and what mods you should probably be hoping fall into that epoch slot in order to get the most from them, and what mods you might want to put on them just to make a truly powerful weapon. As always, if this helps you out, a like would be really appreciated, and if you'd like to become a member of the channel for more gaming content, then why not hit that subscribe and bell. So what I've tried to do is kind of give a little bit of a mixture, give a little bit of every weapon category a bit of love. The first one we're going to be kicking it off with is going to be one that not a lot of people will probably agree with, but it's going to be this one just here, and that's going to be the Damascus Offering. This light machine gun comes with some very nice stats. So crit damage, status power and skill life leech. Crit damage on a light machine gun is very nice and not always the way they roll, and because of its kind of how it's set up, it just works very well and is easy to use all round. The mods that come with it is tier 3 is Claymore Torrent. Not bad whatsoever, there are better out there, but it does do a fair chunk of damage. Shots damage for enemies within 6 meter radius with anomaly blades dealing a certain amount of damage and with a 2-second cooldown. One of the things that I like on it though is the anomaly enhancement. Receive a passive firepower boost equal to 40% of your anomaly power. This one is very good if you're trying to get a lot of damage from your firepower and trying to convert over some anomaly power. So for example, it'd probably be one of the ones you'd be hoping in that third slot you're going to get something like Mage's Rage, and then change that first slot to tier 3 for something else that would help you out a little bit more with your firepower. Sticking firmly in the LMG category, and we have this one right here, the Mythos. I have found this just to be probably the easiest weapon just to chuck on any kind of anomaly power build and just make it work. Probably could work in any type of a build in fact. It comes with armor pierce, close range damage and healing receive. As standard, its mod is actually very nice with Omen, shots launcher cover piercing anomaly projectile that inflicts bleed and deals a set amount of damage, and applies a status that increases damage received by 10% for 3 seconds with a 4-second cooldown. As you can see, it's kind of the full package. Does bleed, meaning that you can put mods on your character that apply to bleed, so you could get 16% extra damage if you want with the bleed effect mod. The 3 seconds is a little bit of a small window, so you will have to work your build around that, but this is one of the best weapons in the game and one of the easiest to use I found. I've been very lucky and got Mage's Rage in that third slot, so that makes it absolutely ideal. And for an anomaly build, this is very easy to pretty much put anything into practice and just devastate your foes. For our next one, I've got to use a stock image courtesy of Outriders themselves because I accidentally deconstructed my Roaring Umbra. However, this light machine gun is just really nice if you like to be in people's faces. Armor pierce, status power and close range damage. One of the great mods that comes with it is Kinetic Stomp. I found that probably with a Devastator this works out one of the best, as you're always close range and your shots create a seismic shock around you, dealing a lot of damage in a 5 meter radius but with a 4-second cooldown. Clip roller, when your magazine has 35% or less ammo, you can roll to quickly reload your equipped weapons. And again the third slot, and again the third slot, down to a little bit of luck, it's your apocalypse slot. I would say with this, you'll probably want anything that's doing an area effect. If you could get this with Moaning Winds on it, that would just be ridiculously powerful for taking out those adds and for doing some really nice boss damage, just from how close range you're going to be and just how effective that big one-shot damage is. Then you could just decide what you want for that middle mod, extra firepower. Do you want something else that does an area effect, or do you want something that will help out your build? Next up, and we've got Heir to the Desert, another one that can work in quite a few builds and probably works quite nice in anomaly ones again. Armor pierce, status power and skills life leech. Comes as standard with your Sandstorm mod, conjuring a sandstorm dealing a certain amount of damage over 5 seconds with a 5-second cooldown. The attributes on it are very nice, the Sandstorm's not bad, but you will definitely want to be swapping out that second one, as Vortex Chamber is far from the best for your mods. Reloading weapon inflicts slow on enemies previously wounded by the weapon without changing it. Definitely swap that second mod for something pretty, but the attributes on this are very nice for a lot of builds. Exactly the same in that regards would be Inferno Seed. This comes with crit damage, status power and long range damage, so if you're after a firepower build, this one can really help you out. Also, the tier 3 mod on it hits like an absolute truck. Critical hits cause an explosion, dealing a large amount of damage and inflicting burn on the enemies within a 5 meter radius with a 3-second cooldown. The second one is Brain Eater. Critical shots do not consume ammo, so even as standard this one's quite feasible, although you probably will want to swap out that second mod and put something in place that gives you a little bit more firepower as standard. Because it's a burst weapon, again it's very accurate and you'll be smashing out those headshots. This one is one of the better ones for getting a little bit of damage about yourself if you're into those firepower builds. Next up for our tactical assault rifles we have the Messenger. Just hands down one of my favourite weapons in the game. Crit damage, long range healing and healing received, it ticks pretty much all the boxes, and the mods you get on it are actually very good. So the tier 3 one is Dimensional Rockets, one of the highest damaging mods you can get in the game for your weapon mods. This gives you critical shots via 4 rockets in the direction of the 4 closest enemies. Each rocket deals a set amount of damage with a 2-second cooldown. It's on a very low cooldown, it works single target, it works multi-target, one of the best mods in the game, and it's just really good for hitting those bosses as well. Also, the second mod that you get with it is Gravedigger's Frenzy. Critical shots increase your critical damage by 30% for 3 seconds with a 6-second cooldown. This allows you to make a very big choice, one of the toughest ones. Do you want to swap out the Gravedigger's Frenzy, or do you want to swap out Dimensional Rockets? In some cases, you may actually be swapping out Dimensional Rockets and trying to put a bit more firepower into the weapon, or making yourself do a little bit more damage with your bullets, even though Dimensional Rockets is such an amazing mod in itself. Definitely one to watch out for, especially if you get a nice Apocalypse slot in it, anything that can help you with your firepower, or if you got it with a Mage's Rage and you were trying to kind of put a little bit of anomaly into your firepower, then you could swap that first slot out for that anomaly enhancement, making this just a great all-round versatile weapon no matter what you're going for. Next up for the double guns, and we've got the final penance. Crit damage, long range damage and skills life leech. As standard, you'll probably know this one rolls with Mage's Rage, so this can be quite interesting, especially if you're after that anomaly power damage, or again, like three of the others, if you're after just converting it over into getting a bit of firepower about yourself. Mage's Rage critical shots grant 10% anomaly power bonus for 15 seconds and stack up to 4 times. At the moment, apparently this one's kind of overworking and doing a little more damage than it should. It will get a slight adjustment, but it will still be one of the top mods that you'll still be wanting to get most anomaly from your build, so it will always be a great one to have on any weapon. Anomaly enhancement as standard with this means you're going to get a big old chunky firepower increase from your anomaly power because you've got that Mage's Rage in the first place. So for that third slot, you'll really be hoping to get something that'll buff your firepower or your anomaly power, making this one of the best weapons in the game. For our next double gun, we're going to be looking at Charred Lance. This one is very different and I just love the looks of it, but it's also got great stats and comes with some really nice mods. So armor piercing, skills life leech and status power gives it quite a bit of viability in a few different builds, probably again a little bit leaning towards those anomaly power builds, but it can work on quite a few. Also, the tier 3 mod, nothing quite like this, and that's Death Ray. Aiming down the sights forms an anomaly beam that deals a set amount of damage every 0.3 seconds when in contact with an enemy. This goes up quite a lot, and if you find yourself focus firing, this could be one that could definitely work on those bosses and a lot of those tougher targets, as long as you're keeping that line of sight. The second one is Resistance Breaker. Shots decrease your target's resistance by 35% for 6 seconds. If you've not got much of resistance about yourself, this might be the one you want to keep and swap the death ray. It all depends what you've got going on in your build. The third one, you're probably going to, I know I've said it a lot, but you're probably going to be aiming for that Mage's Rage or something similar to that, or maybe even a Fortress in order to get the most from this, as I think, like I said, this probably works a little bit better in those anomaly power builds than it does in those firepower ones. Jumping over to the submachine guns, and we've got Sunfall. This one comes with weapon life leech, status power and skills life leech. It's not going to do the most damage about itself because it doesn't have crit damage and such, but the mod that comes on it is very interesting, as it's one of the only mods that can kind of proc burn continuously. Firestorm shots summon a homing firestorm that deals a quite big amount of damage and inflicts burn to enemies within its radius over an 8 second period. Radius of the firestorm increases with each successful shot on the afflicted target with a 10-second cooldown. Also comes with resistance breaker as standard. 35% resistance down is really nice. 1 second cooldown means it's pretty much up constant. I've been lucky enough to get this one with a Mage's Rage, which works really well with it, especially in an anomaly power build. Because this one applies burn, it means that you can put mods on your armor pieces that do extra damage to burn, or if you were using overheat for example, you can constantly press that in order to consume it over and over again. A very nice weapon, and that mod is one not to be overlooked, as it does quite a nice bit of damage, quite a nice bit of area effect, and it's one of the only mods that keeps things burning as standard with added benefits. Next up, and we have the Torturer. This one comes with crit damage, close range damage and skills life leech. So for that very close range damage, this one's going to be really top notch. Also, the mod that comes on it is very different to anything else I've seen. Successful shots create spikes under the enemy that deal 50% of total firepower as damage over 2 seconds with a 2-second cooldown. Flesh Render could be absolutely amazing as long as you can boost your firepower through the roof. I must admit, I have not been able to make this one work yet. I haven't really gone for a build that revolves around pure damage with firepower, but if you can make your firepower absolutely massive, this could be one to look out for, especially when its second mod gives you improved vulnerability as standard. It just means it's going to tick a lot of the boxes without you even needing to do anything with it. If the third one was something other than Firestorm, which doesn't really help this in the slightest, you're probably going to be looking for something such as Final Sacrifice or something along those lines that will boost your weapon power through the roof. That will be helping this out the most, or anything to boost your firepower in general. So jumping over to the sniper weapons, and we've got the Inheritance. Now I must admit, out of all the weapons, the snipers are what I know about least, so if you think there's one I've missed out, let me know. This is the only one that was kind of jumping out at me. Coming with crit damage, long range damage and healing received, it's really good, and all me knows headshots do a lot of damage. Also, its mod Pain Share can really help to clear those ads, because 30% of critical damage dealt is spread to enemies within a 6 meter radius as an anomaly blast. This actually works really fun. I've tried it a few times over. I don't have an amazing build for it, so I couldn't try it fully, but what I have seen from it so far makes it a very versatile weapon, because it does that area effect as standard because of that mod. Again, here with the Apocalypse slot, I would say you're going to want to focus more on your firepower. You wouldn't want damage link, you'd want something that's going to give you some weapon damage or something along those lines, as that will transfer straight over into the crit. Or even more crit itself would also be amazing. I'd say this could work very well in a build that could manage to keep things at bay, such as a Technomancer with its freeze turrets. Not really been able to make a pure sniper build, because like I said, I think it would be more aimed at the Technomancer class, but if you could make that work, this could be a fun thing to try, as you kind of one-shot everything, and everything beside it pops as well. Next up, and we're jumping straight over to the shotguns. No idea why, but shotguns always seem to have the best standard mods, especially in that primary slot, and this is no different. Death Shield has pretty much been the top anomaly thing that you're going to want from get-go of the base game. Now it's fallen off a little bit because it's easier to get hold of with that Apocalypse slot, but it's still an amazing shotty to use. Crit damage, skills life leech and long range damage, and like I said, Fortress is one of the best mods you can have for any build. Shots increase your current armor and resistance by 5%, stacking up to 3 times. At max stacks, the buff is doubled, and additionally grants 20% extra increased damage for 10 seconds, with a 0.2 second cooldown, meaning it's pretty much up constant. Secondly, it gives you Striker, 10% of critical damage is returned to you as health. If you wanted to keep that, that would be well and good, but I'd say it's probably going to be the one you're definitely going to want to swap out, and hope you get something pretty in that third Apoc slot. Something such as Mage's Rage would definitely work best with this. Maybe Deathronome or something, that would definitely work well with this as well, if you could fit it into your build. Speaking of Defronome, that brings us straight over to Evening Star. This comes with crit damage, close range damage and status power. Also, its mod is one of the kind of only mods that does anything like this in the game, especially on your weapons. So Defronome, when 2 of your equipped skills are on cooldown, receive a massive amount of firepower bonus, otherwise receive a large amount of anomaly power bonus. This works really well in any build that's either hybrid or that you know how you're going to be pressing your buttons, spamming your skills, and you can work it around this actual mod. It makes your anomaly power jump through the roof, it makes your firepower jump through the roof. You've just got a little bit of layout in order to make this work, but when it does, Defronome I would say is one of the best mods in the game. Secondly, it comes with Death Chains. This is going to be the one you want to swap out for whatever you're doing, and thirdly it will come with an Apocalypse slot. Like I said, you can choose how you want to use this. If you want to go down that firepower route, this will work amazing. If you want to change it over and you want a nice bit of anomaly power, it also works well because of that Defronome. May well be the one you use in a hybrid build in order to get the most from Defronome, and then chuck a Mage's Rage, and then obviously if you could get hold of it, either an Omen or maybe a Fortress mod in that second or third slot, depending on how luck is. Jumping over to the Anemoi, this shotgun is a beast because of its first mod. It comes with armor pierce, healing received and close range damage. Moaning Winds is still an absolute force to be reckoned with. Reloading creates a strong blast around you, dealing a massive amount of damage to enemies in the range of 8 meters. 8 meters is one of the largest ranges you can get on a mod with an 8-second cooldown. If you're going to be reloading a lot, if you want to be in people's faces, if you want to see everything crumble, this is one of the best mods in the game and has been since the start of the base game launching. A lot of Devastators have used this in their time, and no doubt it'll still be one that you can put into quite a few builds. You're probably going to want to look for that second and maybe even that Apocalypse slot, something else that does something very similar. When you're reloading, causes a lot of damage or just does a lot of damage as standard, but reloading seems to be the way forward with this one. If you can make error effects, chuck it on, this gun will see you through. The last one we'll be looking at for the shotguns is the Thunderclap. I know we've seen more shotguns than anything else, it's because they come with the best mods, which are a bit of a pain sometimes trying to put them into your build because of their low clip size and such. But this one comes with crit damage, close range damage and healing received. The mod on it I think is very possibly one of the most underrated mods in the game, and if you're trying to clear a lot of enemies, this is one of the best to go for, and that's Nicola's Revenge. Shots link up to 5 enemies within a 4 meter radius around the initial target, dealing a large amount of damage over 2 seconds to each of them as long as the initial target is alive. This works really well. I thought that it was going to be one where you just focus more on the elites and you do a bit of damage to the little ones. It's nothing like that. Shoot away, don't worry. Nicola's Revenge is one of the top damaging mods that you can actually put on a weapon, and it's a lot of fun to see with those area effects going off and that lightning proccing. Secondly, with your Storm Whip, this one brings down lightning on an enemy, dealing a certain amount of damage. It's definitely the one you're going to be changing out. You're going to want to probably put another area effect on, and again the last one, exactly the same. This with anything rolled nice in that third slot, such as an Omen, a Fortress, or even something like Dimensional Rockets, or maybe even Rupture, just works amazing. You may have to be a little bit mindful and conservative with your ammo, but if you can make this work, this is a really nice weapon to look out for. Next up, and jumping straight over to our handguns, and we're starting it off with the Corruptor. Now, I don't know the most about handguns, but looking at the stats on this one, it ticks all of the boxes. Crit damage, close range damage and healing received. The mods that you get on this as standard are also absolutely amazing. If you're good at getting that crit damage, if you can do some nice headshots, this could be the one you want to have a little look at. The tier 3 mod, target rich environment, critical shots ricochet to 5 enemies within a 12 meter radius. Ricochet is still 30% of the initial shot's damage. You're going to want to make sure you're doing massive crit damage. If you're not, this isn't going to be the gun for you. However, even with that tier 2 that comes as standard, Gravedigger's Frenzy, critical shots increase your critical damage by 30% for 3 seconds. This, along with a really nice third slot, we've got vulnerability bullets, and by no means is that bad, but I'd probably say you're looking for something to boost your firepower again. Either that or something that does some nice damage with those headshots, so crit damage or anything along that lines, anything that can boost your firepower will make this really strong and may well be the handgun for you. Be mindful it does only have 6 in the clip, so it may be a little bit hard to work with those anomaly rounds, so it may be a bit of a niche build, but as standard this looks like a great gun to try. This looks like a great gun to use. Next up, and we've got Torment and Agony. This one is just a really nice easy gun to use, armor piercing, status power and close range damage. Probably going to be best for your hybrid or anomaly builds, chucking over a little bit of your anomaly power into your firepower, but this could be a really nice one to put into a lot of builds. The mods on it: Judgment Enforcer, shots mark enemies when reloading, deals 10 times your weapon damage to every marked enemy. Marks are removed when you change your weapon. And Clip Combustion, reloading a weapon creates a shockwave, dealing a set amount of damage to enemies within a 5 meter radius. As you can see, this one is all about reloading, means you're going to do a massive amount of damage and could definitely work if you get another really nice apocalypse slot, such as another one that reloads, or even something like a Mage's Rage, depending on what you're doing with the weapon, if you're trying to get a bit more anomaly, or maybe something that gives you a little bit more firepower, or even swaps the anomaly over into firepower, could work in this slot. One to watch out for may well be Moaning Winds, as that will make this an absolute beast for that multi-target clear. Well, you gamers, I am sure I've taken up enough of your time. If I've missed any out, let me know in the comments. There's a lot of weapons that work now because of that apocalypse slot, and there's a lot of fun to be had with the variations of builds and such. But if you think I've missed anything, do not be afraid to chuck it in the comments, as I'd love to hear from you. But as always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox, take care. I'll see you on next day.